Good morning. Today we are going to talk about consumer preferences. As we said before, that consumer would like to buy a product, to make a choice regarding of a product, whether to buy this commodity or not, or in another words, whether to buy a bundle of commodities or not. And as we said, that demand has two main conditions, which are number one, the ability to buy the product, that you have the ability to buy. And we talked last time about ability or the budget line. And now we are going to talk about the second condition, which is related to the desire or willingness. Desire or willingness is represented by what's known as consumer preferences. And then we are going to connect the ability and the desire in order to identify consumer choice or consumer behavior. So what's meant by consumer preferences? Consumer preferences, it is a subjective desire, utility, or taste of different goods and services. So the word preferences means the satisfaction you are going to get, or the utility, or the taste you are going to get from consuming different commodities. Actually, you are not going to buy a single commodity, but you are going to buy a bundle of commodities. It's known as consumer bundle. It's like combination of commodities. This combination or these commodities can be substitutes or complements. For simplicity, we are going to assume that each individual would like to buy just two commodities, X1 and X2. So our bundle consists of X1 and X2, where X1 is related to a particular commodity, Pepsi, chocolate, anything, while X2 refers to all other commodities. So what are the different combinations of the two commodities? Each combination can be known as market basket. So it's market bundle or consumer bundle or market basket. Okay, they are equivalent to each other. Okay, let's take an example in order to understand the idea. This is basket, number of units of X1, number of units of X2, and finally total utility you are going to get from consuming this commodity, or total amount of satisfaction. Okay, with respect to basket A, you are going to consume 10 units of X and X1 and 0 X2. And the amount of satisfaction that you are going to get is 5. With respect to bundle B, it's 7 and 1, 5. C, 5 and 2 is 5. So now let's compare between these different bundles. If you are going to consume 10 units of X1 and 0X2, you can get an amount of satisfaction equivalent to 5. If you are going to consume 7 units of X1 and 1 of X2, you are going to get an amount of satisfaction equivalent to 5. Now let's assume that you would like to consume 10 units of X1 and 1 unit of X2. So the total amount of satisfaction you are going to get is going to be higher than bundle A. As in bundle A, you are going to consume 10 units of X1 and 0X2. So you are going to get 5 satisfaction level. But in case of F, you are going to increase number of units of X2 by 1. As a result, you are not going to get the same level of satisfaction but a higher one. So from this from this table, we can conclude that bundles A, B, C, D give the same level of satisfaction. So any individual is indifferent between A, B, C, and D. Indifferent means they are equivalent to each other for any individual. From here we can get what's meant by indifference curve. If you are going to illustrate bundles from A to D together, this is indifference illustrated graphical as an indifference curve. What's meant by indifference curve? Indifference curves shows different combinations of two commodities that give the same level of satisfaction. So the indifference curve shows different combinations, combination 1, 2, 3, 4 of two commodities, X1 and X2, that give the same level of satisfaction. So if you are going to take X1 and X2 in order to draw the indifference curve, it looks like this is indifference curve. Shows different combinations of X1 and X2. That give the same level of satisfaction or utility. Okay, so this is the indifference curve. What are the main assumptions of indifference curve? Number one, that there are only two commodities. x1, which is any product, and x2, all other goods. Number 2, preference is complete, which means if two baskets are available, A and B, if A is preferable if you couldn't prefer one basket to another, just like this example, A and B, you are going to get the same satisfaction of each one of them, so you are indifferent between bundles A and B. So preference is complete means that you are indifferent between the two bundles. Number C, transitive. Preferences this means if A is preferred to B and B is preferred to C, then A is preferred to C. If bundle A gives a higher satisfaction than B and B gives a higher satisfaction than C, then A should give higher satisfaction than C. Number 4, all units are good. All units of the bundle are good. Do you think there are bad and good? Yes, of course. Later on, we are going to differentiate between what's good and what's bad good. So based on the 4 assumptions, now we can define the indifference curve as curve represent all combinations of two goods that give the consumer the same level of satisfaction. Do you think the individual is going to have only one indifference curve? No, of course. There are a number of indifference curves. If you are going to refer back to this table, you can find that combinations A, B, C, and D can be drawn on only one curve. What about F and G? They are going to be on a higher indifference curve. So what are the characteristics of indifference curves? Number 1, never intersect. You two gives a higher satisfaction level compared to U1. So now let's assume that this is U1 and this is U2. Bundle A gives a higher satisfaction than bundle B. What about bundle C? So indifference curves never intersect with each other. They are parallel to each other. Number 2, negatively sloped. If you would like to increase your consumption of X1, you have to decrease consumption of X2 and vice versa. So they are negatively sloped. The slope of indifference curve is known as marginal rate of substitution, or MRS. It's calculated as delta X2 divided by delta X1, or change in X2 divided by change in X1. Marginal rate of substitution means if you would like to substitute or exchange X1 for X2, how many units you are going to give up of X2 in order to get one more unit of X1 and vice versa. Number 3, indifference map. Actually, consumers are not going to have only one indifference curve as we said before, but there are an indifference map. Each consumer has number of indifference curves. This is known as indifference map. The higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. This means that U2 gives higher satisfaction compared to U1, and U3 gives higher satisfaction compared to U2 and U1. There are a number of special cases. As we said, indifference curves are negatively sloped. The higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction, and never intersect. But we have a number of special cases. Number 1, in case of perfect substitutes. Perfect substitutes are two different products that can be used instead of each other. They can do the same function. No one of them is more preferred than the other. Okay, such as pens. You would like to write using black pen or blue pen, it doesn't matter for you. Okay, so they are perfect substitutes for each other. In this case, the indifference curve is looked like. It's a straight line, okay? Negatively sloped straight line. And this is I1, I2, I3. They are equivalent to each other. So this is the case of perfect substitutes. Case number 2. Perfect complement. Two commodities that should be consumed together. You cannot consume one of them without the other. Such as pair of shoes. You cannot wear the right shoes without the left one. In this case, the indifference curve will look like so this is the case of perfect complements.